Good evening. I was just shooting out some numbers. I figure maybe one day somebody will wake up and understand what I'm doing. So what I'm going to show you is the number 1 and 8. What happens when you shove the 1 inside the 8? Okay, if you put it in on the east or west side, it disappears and it becomes just a heaven. But when you put the 1 spirit inside of 8, you create the A, B, C, D corners, in which the cross that goes across creates the 4 walls, the center creates the center, and you have the pound key of life. Therefore, the Spirit connects everything, and it shows in the numbers of creation. The 1 number, the points go north and south. The 1 spirit of the beta, the 2 gods, the north and the south god. Okay, they're actually 1, but in expression of explanation, I talk about 2. Okay, the same thing goes, okay, for the 1 and 9. Now you see 3 windows in here. Okay, 9 is a birth. When the birth happens, that bar of the 1 will move over, and the 9 will look like an 8 for a birth in the heavens. Now if you look at the 4 and 7, it turns into a backwards R. It doesn't only turn into a backwards R. If you go over to the right, it'll say L7T. Put it together, it shapes that design. So that becomes 39, which means 3 kings. And it does mean 3 kings because the 4 and 7 is the 7 god of the 4 angles, and each angle is a king of God. So those are the 3 kings, he is the 1 king. The 4 and 8 recreate the 8. And if you notice, the 7, 1 points west, the other point on the bottom of the 7 points south. The 4, 2 points north, 1 point south. Those are all angles of God. Therefore, they're pointing in the directions of God. Okay? If you put 4 inside 9, you end up with 9 because the 4 corners of a birth is 9. And it makes the same result. Okay? That little tail you see in there is actually covering and saying this 9 is in the corner. Because there's other kinds of 9s. What I'm going to show you here is a 5 and a 7. And you see, the 5's got 1 tail going east, 1 tail going west. Therefore, the 5, okay, if it turns sideways, it'll have 1 going north, 1 going south. So the 5 is always connecting to both directions, always trapping the center. And when you hold it up, it looks like a real screwed up 8. Okay. Now, if you put them together, that screwed up 8, it makes that design. I know it's not good, but it shows 88. Okay. And that design, when you put those 2 8s together, okay, that design comes out on the roulette board. And there's 3 positions of that design on the roulette board. And, 2 positions. And one is between 8, 10, 11, and 13. And the other is 26, 28, 29, and 31. Okay. Anyways, that's what the 5 and 7 makes. The 5 and 9, okay, create the 9. Because the 9 is a birth, the 5 is just a passage, so the 5 cannot change the 9. All it does is transfer the 9 and transport it. This is just a little design about big-eyed fish in the angel world and 2 buddies. We're all 88s. We're blow-up balloons. Anyways, when you put the 6 to the 7, okay, it also shows that screwed up 8, but this time it shows spirit inside. Okay? And when you show 6, 9, it shows the 8 because the 6, okay, and the 9 is man's birth. So it shows him in heaven as the numbers itself relate to 15. And 5 and 1 and 15 equals to the 6th man of heaven. So you can also add these numbers. Now 7 and 9, okay, is like the 6 upside down. Gives you the opposite format and creates 88. It tells you God of who is the man and God of who is the birth. When you put the 7 and 2 together, they cross through each other. Okay? Because they cross through each other because they're different parts of each other. Okay? They're not really a shape. They're just different parts. It's the female side of God and God himself inside. So it's just he's part of the 2 cannot be who he is, so therefore it makes a deformed shape. So there isn't actually really anything that I can't possibly put together because, I mean, it's so easy. It's either this is it or it's in between, and that's it. So it's either this or that, if or ands. and maybes, but it is. It always is. Once you connect the center, your hypothesis is normally pretty strong. Um, what was I going to show you? Maybe I'll show you two cards. You have two cards. Blah blah blah. I wanted to show you the King of Hearts, and I don't even have it. Yeah, I do. Yay! King of Hearts, King of Clubs. They're not looking at each other. Turn them around. They're not looking at each other because the club is the God and the heart is man, and man follows in God's footsteps, and vice versa as God follows. Okay? All these cards, okay, they look at each other on this one because the spirit is the diamond, okay, and the spade, okay, is the envelope, the strands, the building of the matrix, which is one other side of God. When you flip the cards upside down, they look away from each other because they all have more than one job. God looks this way, God looks this way, and then the King of Diamonds, take a look, he's backwards. He's got his hand up, he's saying goodbye because that's the spirit. He goes both ways, this one over here, okay? And yeah, that's about it. Pretty simple. God broke up his life for us in many parts and pieces, and there actually the queen never existed. The reason for the unlucky 13 is because the queen is not real. She was never real. So if you remove the queen, which is the 12th card, from underneath the 13th would fall to the 12th, and the 13th would be gone, and man would be gone. So therefore, when the oil is sucked out of the ground, something has to replace it. So the oil in the ground in California sinks into the Gulf of Mexico. Oh my God, that would be terrible. I don't know why that crossed my mind. So you see how it works? The queen does exist, because if she doesn't exist, we don't exist, and there is no 13 of lucky or unlucky because we ain't going to know any different. 7 and 6 is 13, and I have done a design of the three worlds. And when I connect the three worlds of tic-tac-toe, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, then the next row, put the 1, 2, 3 on top of the 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, then turn it upside down and do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and you end up with 6 different squares that have a 13 of 9 and 4, 4 and 9, 8 and 5, and 5 and 8. They all total 13. And you probably can't follow me because I'm not showing you a diagram. Everything is falling into fantastic order, but I just don't know, like, I know all this stuff, but where am I going with it, you know? I mean, I may learn, but what am I learning if I'm teaching myself and I can't correct my own errors all the time? Right? Someone correct me.